got here Christy Gonzalez and Ben Salisco, and they are going to be talking to us about Sunday Assembly.
All right, I'll do my best. So Chicago Assembly has often been called an atheist church, and we say that as kind of funny, tongue-in-cheek. We're in no way a church, in no way a religion. We are a godless congregation in that we're just a group of people that happen to meet with no regard to religion. Most of us are atheists, but we are radically inclusive. But what we do is often looks like a church in that we meet, we have donuts, baked goods, coffee. We sing some songs together, usually just some good secular pop songs. We have speakers, we have readings, and these sorts of congregations are sprouting up all across the country, all across the world really, so that in most major cities you can go and meet with other people in your community that also want to meet without religion, have a church-like environment, and that have the community and service opportunities of a church without any of the dogma, without any of the religious context, and still build those same communities that usually aren't as easily accessible to atheists.
You guys mentioned that you guys get called the Atheist Church, but do you guys really like that title? Do you feel like it's descriptive of what y'all got going on?
But certainly, it's kind of a PR thing. We're fine with it because it gets attention, but we certainly don't want anybody to think that it's religious. In fact, it's self-contradictory to say that there's an atheist church. I think that it already shows that we mean that in a joking way. But what we do is we take the good parts of a church and do those, and we don't take any of the things that we think are bad parts of the church. I would compare it to a hospital. There are lots of religious hospitals, and there's lots of problems with having religious hospitals. But if I built a secular hospital, you wouldn't accuse me of building a religion. I would just be doing the good things of the religious hospital and leaving out the religious aspects of it.
Okay.
Oh, I like that metaphor. That's cool. I've always felt like maybe atheist church is a bit of a misnomer, and maybe it is good to draw people's attention, and I think that we need that to maybe separate us from Unitarian Universalists who are very they are sort of synthesizing all religious beliefs, and we do demonstrate that we are without deity, dogma, or doctrine. That is what is separating us, is that we do not have any religious aspects that are informing what we're talking about, and I think that creates a space for a better conversation, is that we are cutting out the middleman. We're just talking about how to live better, help often, and wonder more, and it's just a human experience, and it is what we know, what we feel like is what we can express with intellectual integrity from what we understand about the world. And
what's your end goal? What do you hope that someone can take away from Sunday Assembly by attending one of y'all's events?
I hope that people will feel revitalized when they leave Sunday Assembly. I hope that they'll feel inspired in the same way you might if you attended church, and also connected with other people. I think that one of the best things that we can do is offer like minds and support in the community, so that people recognize that they're not alone, especially. And so I'm hoping that we can create a safe place where people feel like they can fulfill their potential, and creating the community action team where we are offering support to different people in the assembly when they need help.
And I think it's been briefly mentioned, but assuming, as long as it's not proselytizing or being an evangelical, a Christian could come to one of these things and, not feel weird or alienated, right?
I should hope so. I mean, we're not atheist evangelists, but at the same time we will explicitly say that we are a secular congregation that has no deity, dogma, or doctrine. But the actual assembly is more about making the most of the one life we know we have.
Okay, I'm going to segue into what is the Wonder Club. And either of you guys can take this. The Chicago one has the Wonder Club too, right?
No, actually, so there's a thing for each Sunday Assembly called a SMOOP, which is basically just a small group. So that Sunday Assembly services can be an umbrella group, and then you have lots of small groups. Christy, I know, has a lot better SMOOPs going on, so she should talk about these.
We'll take it to them. So the Wonder Club is essentially a small group where people are encouraged to wonder more, as our tenet says, and we generally approach philosophical ideas where we talk about punishment and different aspects of that in society, and we've talked about bioethics, we've talked about humanitarian obligations, we have talked about how to approach the way that people don't accept atheism and how biased people are toward that. Terry, and we're going to talk about dying without an afterlife and how an atheist can come to terms with that, because it's a sort of existential crisis that ensues when you lose your religion and you realize that there's nothing after this and that's the end. And so we're going to have a conversation in the graveyard and come to terms with it, I guess.
As y'all both mentioned, this isn't exactly like atheist evangelical church or anything, you know. You're not really trying to convert people, so y'all are knocking on doors the way some other religious groups do, right?
Of course not.
Okay.
We're not, but I think it is important to offer an alternative, because I think a lot of people do cling to religion and to church despite misgivings because they don't have an alternative, and they maybe find that not having faith leaves them feeling sort of hopeless, because what else are you going to do if you don't have God? I mean, they don't, I don't think, understand that there can still be that same sense of awe and wonder, and there can still be community, and there can still be inspiration, and life isn't hopeless if you don't believe in God. Because so many people say, how can you not believe in God? How I would kill myself if I weren't a Christian. And so I think that no, we're not atheist evangelists, but I think as a congregation without deity, dogma, or doctrine, we are helping people. It's helping relieve people of the crutch of religion, which I feel is an incredibly important endeavor.
Yeah, we have this amazing opportunity to go in and tell the public, hey, you know, if church isn't your thing, but you still like some of the practices, this is something we can do, you know. I want to ask, what are some of the other things you guys do?
We want to partner with churches in doing volunteer activities so that they see that we have a similar mission. We do want to help people. We do want to make a difference in the community. We have a lot of the same motivations that they do, so we partnered with the church at the food pantry and helping people in the community who are experiencing hunger, and alongside so many Christians, we're sitting there bagging groceries, we're talking to people who are in need, and it's amazing to be able to share with them our history and what we're about, and recognize that we are working together for a common cause, and that these differences that we have of belief don't have to isolate us from one another in a common cause.
And so, Ben, now I'm going to throw it to you. Do you have, can you tell me about some of the extracurricular activities of Sunday Assembly there?
Well, we had to suspend our assemblies for a while, so we had a barbecue, summer barbecue, and that was a lot of fun. We've had some service, some modest service opportunities. We did at the Chicago Food Depository. We made sleeping mats for the homeless. That was another volunteer opportunity. We've actually found the most success is that at each assembly we have a drive for donations. So we've done business clothes, glasses, and those have actually been very fruitful.
So if someone wants to find out if there's a Sunday Assembly in their area, how do they go about finding that out? And if there's not a Sunday Assembly in their area, how do they go about trying to get one in their area?
Well, it's very simple. SundayAssembly.com has a listing. Find your nearest assembly. You go to that and you see all the different cities that have one. If you don't have one, it says, do you want to start one in a city near you? And you send their your information, and if you have enough people, you have enough enthusiasm in your town, they will help you launch.
And I will say, even that is a great resource for listing the Sunday assemblies. A lot of the up-to-date information is on Facebook or Meetup. So whether you see a city there or not, look on Facebook or Meetup and see if you can find one, because you'll probably find the most up-to-date information.
And your presence, do you think that your Sunday assembly or your church is actually genuinely for everybody, or is it more going to be niche atmosphere?
I think your point is very well taken. Of course, nothing is for everyone, but I don't think there are lots of people that just don't want to sing along. I'm on stage and I can see who's singing along, and it's less than half. And that's okay, because even people that don't like to sing along still like to meet people. They still like to go out to the pub afterwards. They still want to hang out with their friends. They still want to see a good show or a good speaker. They want to be part of that community. So it's for a lot of people. I will say that the idea that it feels like a church, there are people that had a very traumatic experience in a church, and being in a community that, even though it's not religious, feels like a church can almost be triggering. And there's nothing we can do about that, and certainly it's not a community for them yet. I would advocate that they be part of a support group We have those in Chicago, support groups for recovering from religion, people that are formerly religious. That's certainly something for them. In the atheist movement, there's this clear dichotomy between the atheists, anti-theist activists, firebrand atheists, which I am absolutely in that camp, and the spiritual, not religious, community building. Like I'm an atheist, anti-theist, but I still like hugs. I still like hanging out with my friends. I still like doing service projects. And I don't want people to think that Sunday Assembly represents either of those two wings of the atheist movement. We're a big umbrella.
I've heard that criticism a lot too, actually, that Sunday Assembly it feels too much like church, and I am sympathetic to that because I know I feel uncomfortable when I go to church. And we specifically did not hold our assemblies in a church that has been repurposed for a free thought society here in Atlanta because we knew that it would make some people uncomfortable. But at the same time, I don't think that it's fair that churches should have a monopoly on singing songs and inspirational talks. And so I think that if we are going to repurpose that for our own group, then people as free thinkers should be flexible enough to recognize that we can also use those same ideas and those same traditions in a new way and for a new purpose. It can still be a really enriching experience if they're open.
Well, my personal question is, I grew up in a non-religious environment. I've been inside a church maybe 5 times my entire life. And what do you guys have that would bring in someone like me? It's like Dawkins always says, it's like trying to herd cats. You know, I don't really have an affinity or any kind of memories of being in a great community or anything like that. I don't really need it, that I think. So, like, how do you get people like me who aren't really that interested in that community stuff right off the bat to get out and try it?
Well, that's me. It's the exact same experience I have. I grew up non-religious completely. I've probably been to 10 church services, and those are pushing myself to go because it's such an important cultural thing. But I think the question of how do you get somebody that doesn't know what a church is like to come to Sunday Assembly is like asking how do you get somebody that's never tasted bacon before to convince them that bacon is good. It's just good. It's just we are natural as Homo sapiens. We want to be social. We want to have that community, and we're going to need support from people in our community. So I guess the answer is just try it. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, try it a few more times. Then if you really don't like it, okay, fine, it's not for you. But that's going to be rare, in my opinion.
Do you think Sunday Assembly will look the same 1 year from now as it does today?
Oh, I doubt it. I feel like we've changed so much in the past year. We've grown so much in the past year, and we're continuing to grow and develop it in different parts of the world, and I think that it will continue to flourish. I think that we will be able to do so much more in people's lives and be an indispensable part of people's lives in the community in a much deeper and integral way than we are now. So I hope that in the future we will just continue to flourish.
What's like the WikiHow first 5 steps of starting a Sunday Assembly?
Yeah, I think the first step to that is to getting that nucleus of people that are willing to put in the time to organize it. Often if you can divvy up the tasks. Now, if one person has enough free time to do it, one person can really run a Sunday Assembly and get it off the ground, although eventually you want to move to a more board of directors as you get incorporated. But having that nucleus, and if you're just meeting for coffee once a week, once every other week, and you're talking about what we need to do, and you're maintaining a to-do list, you can all start looking for venues, and as things start to emerge, you can get it off the ground without having a lot of deadlines or a lot of burden on one person. So sometimes one person will take care of everything, and they'll just put on the show, and hopefully there's enough volunteers that get there over time. Or sometimes you'll have a nucleus of several people that can all help each other out, and it'll come about when it comes about. I think the Chicago group was meeting for 4 or 5 months before they actually had their first service. I wasn't involved in that first startup, but there's no rush. You don't want to burn yourself out, but once you start to get the PR rolling, that's when you really want to get going.
I have another real quick question. Do you guys have an online presence, a place where people can find you? Somebody in the chat kind of asked if there was a place where people are able to see videos or anything from an assembly.
Yes, we are on YouTube, so you can see several of our services on YouTube. You can also find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Meetup. You can see at the bottom of my screen down here at SA in Chicago, and then Sunday Assembly Chicago is the YouTube channel. I know that if you search on YouTube for Sunday Assembly, the San Diego Sunday Assembly comes up, and that'll give you a good idea of what most Sunday assemblies look like. They do a pretty good job.
Sunday Assembly is seriously a great movement that it's given not for everyone. It's niche, but if it's for you, really just give it a go. These guys are doing an incredible job with it. And thanks for watching. It's been real.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.